Hello again, and welcome to War Stories, behind the scenes tales from the front lines of the media. I'm your host, Tom Curley. If you're new to this show, why are we doing this? War Stories is just that. Back in the day, I was a TV director, audio guy, technical director, cameraman, and a bottle washer for the CBS television network and ABC. So I decided to get together with some of my friends and basically do what we used to do in the old days, which we would get together at a bar after work, and we would tell stories about stuff that happened, crazy stuff that happened at work, silly stuff that were behind the scenes. And of course, I couldn't do it without my co-host, Garry Armstrong, who's a veteran TV reporter for Boston over 30 plus years. And you know that because it says veteran TV reporter right there. So, Garry, how you doing?
We're just getting over the latest siege of COVID. So if my voice starts to go south, that's what's going on. But definitely feeling better now.
Yeah, that's true for the. I'm fine. Sadly, was it last week or 2 weeks ago? You and Marilyn were down here. We did the show live from the studio, and
Right.
that's when you found out that your son Owen had COVID, and you guys were
Yeah.
negative. And then sadly, both of you did get it. Ellen and I, we didn't. We survived it. So and the other
Great.
sad part, it was really weird the response, because we had things to do that week, and everybody we called, they would go, don't worry about it. Just come in. Ellen had a doctor's appointment. She said, well, I was exposed to COVID. They said, don't worry about it. Come on in. She had a meeting at the Rotary. Come on. It's just become the flu. Which is, I guess that's a good thing, right? I mean,
Yeah, definitely. This thing lingers, and what has me um, wondering is Marilyn and I have both had all the booster shots. I've lost track of how many we've had, but we supposedly were well in shape, and then this thing happened. I wanted to blame our furry kid Duke for spreading it because he's the only one that doesn't have COVID, but he just snorts and begs for another biscuit, so that's a lost cause.
yes, ours do the same thing. So a little housekeeping before we start today's show. Uh, Last week we told a story about when we used to go over and visit WABC AM back when it was a radio station, probably one of the best in the country. And it was a joke that Dan Ingram, very, very famous disc jockey, and Cousin Brucey, yes, Cousin Brucey, he played a joke on Cousin Brucey where I said, Cousin Brucey was on the air live, and he was doing a thing called News and Brief. And he said, now News and Brief, and Dan dumped a whole box of underwear on his head. Well, I was corrected. I was corrected by the WABC historian, Frank Dunn, who pointed out, no, what actually happened was he was reading a weather report, and he said, the weather report calls for brief showers. And he dumped a box of underwear on his head. So we having journalistic integrity. I mean, Lord knows somebody's got to have it. We are issuing that correction, and we want to thank Frank.
Well,
Frank for
you
that.
you just mentioned something that I've shared with you that I'm concerned about as we do these stories from our past. We have to remind ourselves as well as our viewers that we're going back in many cases half a century, so that some story that we tell may be just a little askew off, but it's not an intentional manufacturing of the truth. It's just that we're going back a lot of years and you can't remember every detail.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm stunned at the stuff that we do remember. Um, so anyway, last episode, as you remember, the Lone Ranger had once again fallen off a cliff, and Tonto and Silver had to go and save him. No, last week we teased that we were going to be introducing a new show in the Get Off My Lawn Network, Media Wars. Every show needs a pundit, and
Yes.
and we don't have. I mean, I guess we could call ourselves pundits, but no, not really, and we're not really qualified to answer the questions of the day.
I agree.
I agree. And of course, your dog Duke has given us a lot of insight and commentary.
Yes.
Throughout the episodes, but we do have our own official in-house pundit, and I would like to introduce you to Ask Lexi. Got questions? Need answers? Tired of listening to TV pundits? Well, just ask Lexi.
If I agree to do this show, can I take this stupid hat off?
Hello and welcome to Ask Lexi, where we get down to the brass tacks and tackle the leading issues of the day. So today's question comes from one of our viewers, and it's about politics, specifically about political polls. He writes, Dear Lexi, what do you think about the media's constant use of political polls? They haven't accurately predicted the last two elections. Are they really any good? Well, that's a good question. What do you think, Lexi? Are polls good or bad? No. We're not talking about polls, P-O-L-E-S. We're talking about political polls, P-O-L-L-S. Okay, well, thanks, Lexi. I think we got some serious insight into that question. Now, if you have any questions for Lexi, just leave them in the comments section below and we'll get to them on future episodes. Well, that's all for now for this episode. See you next time on Ask Lexi. Got questions? Need answers? Tired of listening to TV pundits? Well, just ask Lexi.
If I agree to do this show, can I take this stupid hat off?
Well, there you go.
I can see Lexi working with Don Lemon on CNN.
Oh, absolutely. I can see. Oh, absolutely. I can see. Maybe we can get a double box with her and Duke.
Yeah.
Well,
it would be the dog version of The View.
Of The View.
No. On the subject of politics, how do you follow Lexi? That's not fair when you're doing this sort of thing.
I know it's not fair,
but it's like the old W.C. Fields thing about not wanting to work with children or animals because they're difficult acts to follow. But
absolutely,
this thing about polls and politicians has me thinking about politicians that we both have mentioned, both have met in our past, and I think of on first take President Clinton, who I don't want to say I got to know, but I as a off camera did get to meet him a little bit. One of the first times was he was holding a party let me back that up a little bit. He had a summer vacation on Martha's Vineyard. This goes back to 1992, I believe, and it was on Martha's Vineyard, and he had invited the media to an after hours and um, a very friendly off. I'm having a senior moment here. You can't write anything down type of party. Well, we saw him. They had a barbecue going, and we saw him walking through the media crowd. And a good friend of mine, a cameraman, said to me, "Garry, he's walking towards us. Get him to laugh." And I was trying to think, how do you, in the middle of the media and Secret Service, by the way, how do you get the president to laugh without making a fool of yourself? The enemy said, "Well, you're a fool anyway, so say something." So the president is just a couple of feet away from us, and I thought, why didn't I ask him something from a movie? So as he's right next to me now, and on either side of him, remember, Tom, there are Secret Service agents looking at us directly because they're not sure about me. They'd seen me before. So I said to him, "Mr. President, do you remember the movie The Naked Gun? Do you remember the movie Airplane?" Airplane, he says. "Oh, yeah. And I said, "Mr. President," and I could see the Secret Service agents getting even closer. I said, "Do you remember one of those lines where the actor Peter Graves says, 'Joey, have you ever seen a grown man naked?'"
You ever seen a grown man naked?
And the president pauses for a moment. The agents are moving closer. And once again, I thought, "Armstrong, you've really done it this time." And then he starts laughing loudly and saying, "Oh, man, I remember. That was a funny line. Yeah, Gare, right? Gare." That's what he called me. And yes, Mr. President. And you can see the Secret Service agents backing off just a little bit. But we got a couple of or three wonderful photographs with reminders that the president was a fan of funny movies. And that became the talk of the town that evening because I think that was the same evening he played, correct me if I'm wrong, he played the saxophone along with Carly Simon, and they gave a gig that was it was terrific to be there in that moment. And it also
Wow.
shows you the
Yes.
accessibility of the president back then. Can you imagine that happening today?
Oh, no. Yes, you don't screw around with the Secret Service. I remember one time on the morning news, I was the A2, and whenever my main job was to put out fires, and whenever something was wrong, a mic died or something, and I had a reputation for being very laconic. I moved in slow motion all the time. I was this very casual, relaxed guy. All right. But if I exploded out of the control room and was running hell bent down the hallway, everybody would just put, up against the wall, let him by. Something really serious is happening. Tom is running. So I think we were interviewing Yitzhak Rabin. He was the prime minister at the time. And his mic died, or somebody's mic died. And I burst out of the control room and I ran down the hall and I hit that door into the studio, boom, and it slammed open, and there were two Israeli Secret Service agents with Uzis pointing right at my nose. And I just came to a stop, and I went, "Don't shoot! I'm just the audio guy, right?" And then they laughed, and I fixed it. But yeah, we used to make friends with the Secret Service because back then they all had those old wire earpieces. They were very uncomfortable. It was a piece of wire, and we had what was then the new rubber ones, that were like it looked like this. It was a coil.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And they were much more comfortable. So they would hang out in the audio booth, and we'd say, "God, isn't that uncomfortable?" And they go, "Oh, yeah, they're a pain in the ass." We go, "Here, take one of these." And we would give them a set of IFBs. And we could do no wrong after that. And then they
I'm
were
sure.
the eventually,
I'm sure.
yeah, eventually they all went to that. So I have a Bill Clinton story, which is actually uh, whatever you think about politics, we both have an opinion, and I'm not going to hide it. And if somebody doesn't like it, well, that's your right. But anyway, the very first day of Up to the Minute, which was the overnight news show that debuted in 1992, as a matter of fact. And it was a revolutionary show because we took the traditional control room that had 12 to 18 people and we reduced it to 3. All right. And I was one of the 3. Now, I was happy because I had gotten a promotion. I wasn't just the audio guy anymore. I was now a director and a TV director, a TD, and I was also the cameraman and the Chiron operator. And this was really great, except on our first day, and it was a really big thing. This show was the darling of the then president of news. So we were the hot ticket in town.
Right.
So on our first day, now the show went on at 2 o'clock in the morning, but at 12 noon that day, there I was feeling sorry for myself, realizing 1, I was going to be here for the next 20 plus hours, and 2, I had this great promotion, and here I am holding a microphone, waiting for our first guest, and I'm feeling great. I'm this hotshot director, and I'm still just putting mics on people. Well, anyway, our first guest was Bill Clinton, and this was during the primaries when it was a day after he had made the announcement that he smoked pot in college, but he didn't inhale, and he had the whole Jennifer Flowers thing. I think maybe a week before he did the famous interview with him and Hillary on 60 Minutes, where basically Hillary told the country to mind their own goddamn business. Whatever is between my husband and I is our business and none of yours. And this was a time back then when everybody went, gee, she's got a point, So anyway, he was not leading in the polls. And so anyway, he comes into the studio and he's surrounded by a whole entourage, Secret Service, president of news, the executive producers of all the morning news, evening news, 60 Minutes. And he sees me, okay? And he breaks away from the whole crowd and he walks over and he takes out and he says, "Hi, how are you doing? I'm Bill Clinton. I'm running for president of the United States." And you got to understand, I had been doing the morning news, for almost 10 years. I have seen every president, vice president, senator, but I'm totally blasé by this. But this guy just blew me away. The charisma I could see why women, why he had no problem getting women. This guy just had it. And so he did the interview.
He did.
Did the interview, and it was really good. And he finished, and then of course the whole entourage, they come back, and they're all surrounding him. And an old black guy from the cafeteria, he brings up the coffee service. This guy's been doing that for as long as I could remember. So he's just bringing up his coffee service. He's in the background. He's not bothering anybody. Bill Clinton breaks away from that whole entourage. He goes over to this guy. "I'm Bill Clinton. I'm running for president." And you could see this guy, he was just like, "Oh, this is the greatest day of my life." This is, he was just, he had that ability. And my thought at the time was like, wow, this guy either really has charisma or he's a really good actor.
He has charisma.
And it turns out he has charisma. It exists. Now, I'll be the next day.
Now,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, we both have covered a number of presidents during the course of my career. It began with a very brief outsider gathering with JFK. I think I was still going to college at that point, and it was a meeting for junior media people, that sort of thing. So there was no direct meeting. I was just in a gathering and able to wave at him. But you fast forward ahead, professionally, I was there for Presidents Nixon, Johnson, Carter, all the way up through President Clinton. And certainly Clinton Even with all of those so-called personal encounters between media and the president, which inevitably have been set up by the president's staff, Bill Clinton, as you say, had charisma. He broke away from his entourage, and I think he really was down to earth. My version of your story is I hope affectionately uh, have a bit of a reputation among my former colleagues and some friends of being known as a pen thief. I've never met a pen that I didn't like, that I didn't want to steal. It just came naturally with me. One day, we're doing a story at the White House. There's some downtime. We were in the Oval Office and we were told just to stand by and the president would be with us. So we're waiting, and there was no one else in the room. There may have been a security agent at the door, but I was just looking around, and lo and behold, on one of the podiums, I saw a beautiful pen, and I walked over, and I'm looking at the pen, and I picked up the pen, and I'm looking at it, and I heard the voice say, "Hey, I got you, Gary. I got you, Gary. I heard about you and pens." I looked up, and it was President Clinton saying that, okay, the commander in chief knew about my days as a pen thief. And I just look at him, and he just grinned, "Gotcha." And it was such a funny moment.
That's great. Well, I have maintained something for years, and I didn't think this up, but here's the problem with politics and government. In order to be elected to any public office requires two different job skills. The job skills that you need to get elected to be a good candidate are not the same job skills you need to actually do the job. In other words,
Right,
you can be a
right,
very popular presidential candidate, but you're a crappy president. And we've seen this, and
right.
we've seen this dozens of times. Lord knows, we saw one 4 years ago. And
Yeah,
you have to hope that whoever is running happens to possess both of those skills. And the truth is more often than not, they don't. You
they
can get
don't.
a great orator like an Abraham Lincoln or an FDR or a JFK or Obama, and they turned out to be very good presidents, unless, of course, they're one of these crazy right wingers. But that's always fascinated me. And the other thing that drives me crazy about all politics is they all run on the "I'm an outsider. I'm not a inside the
Yes.
beltway politician. I have never served in any official capacity in any office ever. So you should vote for me." What the fuck is that logic? I mean, would you? All right. Hey, this is Curley's plumbing service. I have never unstopped a toilet in my life. I wouldn't know the slightest thing about fixing a goddamn pipe. So come to me. I'm the guy you want. Really? I mean, come on.
It,
It's crazy.
you're right. Um, the late Tip O'Neill, who, golly, so I wish we had him around today, but he was when he was Speaker of the House, he was known for his ability to work both aisles. He also he said of politics, all politics is local. That was his famous slogan. He used to back in the day, and I hate that cliche. He used to come down to the pub that was near the TV station that I worked at, and it was not unusual to see him come in and have a lunch, which was usually liquid. Oh, so one day he and I was sitting at the bar, and we're both having the same liquid lunch. And he turned to me and asked, "How's it going?" And I said, "Oh, the same old." And it's like drudgery some days. And he says, "Well, I thought TV was glamorous." And I said, "How about you?" And he said, "The same old, same old." And I said, "Well, I thought politics was glamorous." And he said, "Bullshit." And he started to launch into how difficult it was to go through still another campaign. But he said it's even more difficult to get anything done when you're working. And he said it was like drudgery, like washing floors, having to go through the business of uh, convincing people on the other side of the aisle to at least listen to the legislation, listen to why it would be responsible to either pass or oppose certain bills. And he said it took sometimes up to an hour to have someone just pay attention to him. And he said it was like really hard, boring work, but it had to be done. And then he looked at me and he said, does that make sense? And I said, absolutely. It sounds like when I'm doing some really boring story that people think is glamorous. And what I got from him is that most people just want to go through the election and be elected, but they don't want to do the boring in and out work that has to be done by a politician, uh, which which was in a sense a revelation, because if you're a novice or an outsider, you think every day is glamorous for the president of the United States, the most powerful elected leader in the country. So we both laughed about the follies of having glamorous jobs. And it was that day that we walked outside of the pub and I showed him a new watch that I had. And he looked at it and we got a photograph that to this day looks like I'm trying to sell him a hot watch. Well, he looked at my watch and laughed, and I put the watch back on, and people were walking past us and still wondering whether or not I was trying to turn the Secretary of State into a pen thief. And he always got a chuckle out of that, but I just bring that up because for some reason we are not able to support and place into office people like Tip O'Neill anymore.
Yeah, yeah, that is very true. I mean, my God, you compare Tip O'Neill to the barely Speaker of the House that we have now.
Yeah, yeah. The world has
Yeah,
changed, but the world hasn't changed. It's the same old,
hasn't
same old.
changed. It's the same old stuff. Well, we did it again. Here I am thinking,
That
gee,
fast.
we run out of
That
stuff to
fast.
talk about, but we ran out of time. So now, of course, it's time for the mandatory plugs, which, of course, the first one is always Serendipity, Seeking Intelligent Life on Earth. No, which is Marilyn, the wife's blog that we all contribute to, and of course, let me get rid of that. And of course, our sister podcast, which is Get Off My Lawn with me, where we talk about life, the universe, and whatever the hell else we want to talk about. And finally, we do have the last thing, which is my favorite audio theater group, Voicescapes Audio Theater, for the best in audio theater, radio, drama, and comedy. I know, I'm in it. I've heard all the stuff. So there you go. We've pulled it off again. We'll be back next week with more stuff. Maybe another Ask Lexi, maybe another Ask Duke. But anyway, until then.